I'm Ethan.
Hi, I'm Emily.
Apartment now for 2 months, and we'd like to show you what we've done with it.
2 whole months we haven't left. 1. Plants! They're great. I'm in school for plants, and I was inspired. And I figure, what better way to learn about plants than to live amongst them?
At first, I didn't know what to do with the kitchen in this apartment. The dark cabinetry was a big turnoff for me because right now, bright white kitchens are such a big trend that I couldn't even picture a dark kitchen. I thought about covering the cabinets in contact paper of a lighter color, but then realized that it wouldn't match the floor because both the cabinets and the floor are that nice mahogany, and it's actually quite pretty. So I decided to keep the cabinets the way they were and instead tackle the backsplash. Well, that presented another challenge because the backsplash was a plasticky, shiny, textured thing, and I couldn't just put a stick-on top of it, so I had to come up with a better idea. So my mom came up with a really cool recommendation, which was to buy masonite board in the shape of the backsplash. It's just some really thin wood, and she actually uses it for painting on it, similar to gesso board. And you can slide that masonite board in between the cabinet and the backsplash, and then cover the backsplash that way, kind of creating your own, but you don't have to actually drill into the wall at all to do it. Today I'm working on the kitchen backsplash. So first step, I went to Lowe's and got a bunch of masonite boards cut. It took them a really long time, so I'd like to thank the patient people of Lowe's. And I had measured the kitchen backsplash, come up with the sizes needed. Next step is I'm going to have to cut out the holes for the plugs and the switches.
What's she doing, boy? Oh. I like cooking. I like plants. I often cook with plants, and I wanted to be inspired by plants to cook artfully. So we took some old botany books, and we cut out amazing, colorful pictures of plants.
I messed around with these pictures for a long time, putting them in different orders and taping them on until I was convinced that I had it perfect. Then I finally used wallpaper glue to adhere them to the painted masonite board, and at the very end I sprayed it with a water-resistant coat. And voila! We have this really wonderfully unique backsplash.
I like plants. And then we just put it in like this. I think it's cool that our backsplash is unique and botanical, unlike anyone else's.
And then the doggy opened his present, and it was a whole chunk of cheese. The end. Oh, hi there. Welcome to my humble abode. I'm just here hanging out on the couch with my Christmas elves. This couch came from a girl in Fort Worth. I bought it lightly used. It was a great purchase. It's very soft and comfortable.
These are dogs. We also bought them used.
What I love about this room is how open it is. And I wanted to keep that open feeling and not clutter it up with a whole bunch of furniture. But that being said, I did need some kind of seating for when guests come over. So I settled on a happy medium. I bought a couple of poofs. And what's wonderful about these is they can be a footrest. Or when people come over, I can simply move them around the room and they act as seating, and then we can all sit around and play guitar and pet the dogs.
Oh, hey, I was just sunbathing, working on my tan.
So you might remember from the first video that I had ordered a jungle mural to put up here. Well, when it came, it looked a lot different from the picture, and I thought I needed to go with just kind of a different feeling. And this is actually a pretty cool story where I got this from. So have a seat and let me tell you about it.
So I pulled up Pinterest on a mission and I found these live edge wood wall art pieces for $1,200. And I was thinking about it and I was like, people in this city are constantly cutting down trees out of their yards and probably just putting them into the dump. There's gotta be wood somewhere that I can find that's cheaper. So I did a search for live edge lumber in the Dallas area, and I came upon this little warehouse in Northwest Dallas. They basically just accept trees from landscapers, stuff that would otherwise just get thrown into the dump, and then they cut it up and sell it pretty cheaply to be used for tables, shelves, and other projects. I called ahead and explained that I wanted a cool looking piece to mount on my wall. The owner was really friendly and invited me to stop by and have a look. I knew nothing about wood, but he was happy to give me a tour and explain the different types of wood available and also how to treat it before bringing it indoors. I searched through the warehouse until I stumbled upon this little guy, which I immediately knew would be perfect. It's a piece of cypress that came from a lady's yard in Arlington. The guys at the warehouse sanded it for me, leaving me some time to bond with the adorable little shop dog. Once the wood was sanded, the treatment was super easy. All I had to do was coat it a couple times with polyurethane and then mount it to the wall like a painting. All in all, this gorgeous wall art cost me less than $50, which is obviously a lot better than the price I'd seen on Pinterest. The bathroom of this apartment was almost a deal breaker. It looked like a Motel 6 bathroom when we moved in. So the majority of my time and budget has gone into fixing up this room. The stick-on tiles were a huge splurge, but they were so worth it because it really brightened up the room. I also painted the walls a light purple. It took endless tries to settle on a color. The difficulty was in finding something that wouldn't clash with the doors and cabinets. I went through a couple entire bottles of acrylic, adding it to the wall paint to get the right shade. And then once I figured out the color, it took me the better part of 2 days to finish painting all these walls. It turns out that painting a bathroom is really complicated, not to mention frustrating because I had to block the sink and shower in the meantime. But in the end, it really wound up looking beautiful. It's such a significant improvement to what it looked like before.
So when I'm taking a bath, I was just staring at this big blank wall, so I knew I needed a really nice big piece of art for here. And I looked around for a while for one to buy, and then just decided that I should paint one myself. So this is a leftover piece of masonite that we had used in the kitchen for the backsplash, and I painted this through. And it took about 12 hours in total. I had to watch a couple YouTube videos on how to paint birds, but I think it turned out very nicely, and now I have something beautiful to look at while in the bathtub.
Here we are standing in front of our apartment. Behind me you can see a giant sculpture of a baby with humongous feet. I don't like this baby.
So in the hallway, in the last video, you probably remember seeing this really pretty runner. I purchased this from Turkey, but it was a little bit darker than expected from the picture that I had seen on the internet. So I had wanted it to match these stools, which in the last video you saw were peach colored. But it didn't quite match, so I went ahead and changed the stools. I painted them a dark brown, like a mahogany color to match the floor. And then I sewed these cushions out of green suede, which is the same material that the couch is. And the cushions aren't perfect looking, but that's actually kind of what I like about them. I like having things in the apartment that look handmade and vintage because it just makes it more homey feeling, and you feel like it's a home and not just a showroom that way.
Seriously, whose baby is this? Let me get your baby.
So I really wanted holiday decorations, but I didn't want to be wasteful and buy plastic things. What I did was went outside and cut some branches off of some evergreen trees,
You know, it's silly because people have evergreen trees in their yard and they could just easily make their decorations out of that, but instead they go to Walmart and buy plastic things. So I just took a couple of clippings and kind of hung them around different things around the apartment, and I feel like it looks really classy and it's really easy.
Less plastic, more fantastic.
And then I did the same thing with these wreaths. I just bought plain grapevine wreaths, which can be repurposed around the year for different decorations and different seasons. And I just stuck some more of the evergreen trimmings into them. And then I also put in some feathers from my mom's guinea fowl, which I had picked up off her land during their molting season earlier this year.
The stocking was made from a chicken. This tree came from a forest of tiny trees inhabited by elves.
Chestnut roasting, Jack Frost nipping at your nose. So offering this simple phrase, although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you.
Coffee joint right across the street from our beautiful apartment. Why don't you come inside and I'll tell you about my childhood.
In the last video, we showed you the Trinity River Trail. This video, I figured that I would show you our favorite park, Reverchon Park. To get to Reverchon, we just have to take a quick jog down the Katy Trail. The Katy Trail used to be an abandoned railroad line and is now one of the most iconic destinations in Dallas. Every year it brings over 1 million visitors to enjoy the beautiful scenery, well-maintained paths, and the splendor of the city. And what better time to walk the trail? November in Dallas is a wonderland of color. During these months of perfect weather, the trail can get quite crowded. Here we round the bend to Reverchon Park, which was named for noted French botanist Julien Reverchon. The land that is now Reverchon was once home to a utopian socialist farming commune called La Réunion. It was founded by French and Belgian colonists in the 1850s, but existed for only 18 months before dying of financial insolvency. In 1860, the land was incorporated into the city of Dallas. Today, the Reunion Tower is named in memory of the commune. The park was initially popular for mythical healing powers associated with the water from the Gill Well. Though today it is buried and largely forgotten, the Gill Well used to be a pretty big deal in Dallas. The plan was to use this hot spring water in order to turn Dallas into the hot springs of Texas. The well was named for the city water commissioner, who drilled it in 1902. According to a 1902 edition of the Dallas Morning News, City Council's goal was to create the deepest well in the state in order to settle once and for all the question as to whether or not an underground sea lay beneath the earth. The drilling was slow going and went on for 2 years until it finally reached a depth of more than 2,500 feet. They indeed discovered an underground reservoir, and from its depths flowed pure mineral water, which had the power to naturally heal every malady, or so they believed. At first, the mineral water was made available to Dallas citizens free of charge. Just show up at the fountain with a bucket. Unfortunately for them, the water was quite pungent smelling. Eventually, Dallas realized that this was a financial opportunity. There was good money to be made from this miraculous water. They opened the Gill Well Sanitarium and Bathhouse on the land that is now Reverchon. Parkland Hospital, right down the street, got its share of curative water pumped directly into the hospital for patient use. Business at the new sanitarium was very good, and the public fountains at both the sanitarium and the city hospital continued to be popular with residents who needed a boost or a cure, and they could stop by whenever they wanted for their free pail. In 1912, the city even added a natatorium. That's an old-fashioned word for a swimming pool. Although the waters are no longer here on the property, Reverchon Park maintains its mystical healing properties today. All one has to do to experience its magic is walk along its beautifully manicured paths, cross beneath its towering bridges, explore its forested trails, and gaze upon its stunning city views. The Missouri-Kansas-Texas Railroad, abbreviated as the MKT, which later got shortened to Katy, decided to move its tracks. It chose to go right through this special land, and for some reason the city was not only unable to stop it, but forced to move Maple Avenue to avoid the train route. After that, Reverchon Park essentially fell into disuse and neglect. By the 1980s, it was notoriously crime-ridden. But a rejuvenation project in 1998 helped turn it into what it is today, Dallas's own Central Park. I hope you've enjoyed seeing the updates to our apartment and learning a little bit of history about our neighborhood. And a special thanks to flashbackdallas.com for the history lesson.
Happy holidays!